Good evening, kids. Welcome to Spittin with Spitter. It's Wednesday night. How's everybody doing tonight? Before we get this show started, I want to get my sponsorships out of the way for all your CBD needs. Go to 312 Town Center Boulevard. Go to Mom and Pop CBD Shop. Tell them TJ sent you to take care of you. For all your vaping needs, go to Lehigh Vape on 822 Nazareth Pike in Nazareth, and they will take care of you. If you haven't already, go to 2M1L Media, click like, subscribe, and share, and stay updated with all our podcasts. We have Home Team Sports, Around the Turnbuckle, Spin with Spitter, Spitter and Deal Show, and Shooting the Shit with Alan Spit. Now you're tuned in. My guest tonight drove out here from Passaic County, somebody that I hold at the most high esteem that's helped me in my life and my recovery. George C., what up, my brother? Good afternoon, evening. How are you?
Good, man. Doing all right. Good day to be alive.
Good day to be alive.
Right.
Now, all the guests that I've had on this month, we've been talking about mental illness, addiction, and recovery. So I would like to start with your story and how you got here.
All right.
So,
story how I got.
At what age did you start using?
What age did I start using?
Yeah.
9.
9 years old.
9 years old.
And what was your drug of choice?
9 years old. At the time, my drug of choice was anything I can get out of my parents' liquor cabinet. And that's what I did.
Right.
I took bottles of liquor out of the liquor cabinet. I was 9 years old. I used to run up into the woods behind the house and get blasted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just that and the cigarettes. You know what I mean? You know, you 9-year-old kid, you're smoking mom's cigarettes, man. You're getting all lightheaded. And,
it's a big deal.
I mean?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it didn't stop. It didn't stop until I came into recovery.
Right.
You know, but there's I remember when I was in about 7th grade.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I was 7th grade, I was smoking weed steady.
Yeah.
Getting weed steady. You know what I mean? And all the other kids in my school, all the other kids in my class, because I was always the kind of kid, if you're like me, man, you always gravitate towards the older kids.
Right.
I used to hang around with all guys that were, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was 13 years old. I was hanging around with guys that were 17 and 19 years old.
Right.
That's how it was when we were kids, you know? So when I was in 7th grade, nobody wanted nothing to do with me. Understand? Because of the things that I was choosing to do.
Right.
You know, I wasn't playing Little League baseball. You know, I guess my idol when I was a little kid was, remember Bad News Bears? Remember the kid that was smoking cigarettes riding a dirt bike?
Right.
That's who I wanted to be like, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I watched Scrooge. You know, I wanted to be the Artful Dodger. You know what I mean? I'm always attracted to the black sheep. You know, but anyway, so all that shun that was going on in 7th grade, by the time we got to 8th grade graduation, then all of a sudden I was cool.
Right. Now you're a man.
Yeah, because I was the one that was at the 8th grade graduation party, and they were asking me to roll the joints because they didn't even know how to roll the joints. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was rolling up, and I thought I was a big kid on campus back then.
In the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's like anything else, it's the progression of the disease.
Yeah.
You know.
And how that progress? So now we're talking 8th grade.
8th grade.
Smoking weed.
Very
drinking.
simple. Very simple.
You know.
Okay. It's one of those things. It's called compromising our standards.
Right.
I'll do this, but I'll never do that. And I'll do that, but I'll never do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, I'll never, you know, saw this guy walking around our town because he blew his head out on acid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never do acid. Next thing we know, we're tripping and having a good time, right?
Right.
And then but I'll never shoot dope.
Right,
I'll never do dope, right? My friend's brother, we used to see him. We're horrified because my friend's brother lost his one leg from the knee down, from his leg being affected from shooting dope. And we thought, I'll never do, you know what I mean? Listen, I compromised all my standards. And guess what? I did everything that I said I'd never do.
Yeah, I remember before I got to recovery, my end was I'm never gonna stick a spike in my,
Right.
but at the same time I'm taking everything in the cabinet to make it's the same effect,
Right. Right.
So now you're going into high school. What's that like?
High school was crazy because I went to high school in the early '80s, and my high school was like, it was wide open, man. My high school was like a lot of partying at my high school, and we had that was back in the day. In our high school, we had a smoking area.
Okay.
You go outside and smoke, and nobody, and back then, there wasn't that whole thing with like the jocks and the burnouts.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the jocks were burnouts.
Right.
They were just people that partied and wanted to play sports too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was never the kind of guy that gravitated towards. I'm an asthmatic. I was an asthmatic since I was a kid, so I was never into
playing sports.
No, I wasn't the kind of guy that was gonna run around to get a pat on my ass or a trophy.
Right.
I didn't care about that shit.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about the progression.
I'll tell you the progression. The progression was that I was a really good student in school. Okay. But when I first got to high school, my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, I had straight Fs. My report card was it was atrocious. I remember, when you think maybe you might have a problem, I stood on a bus stop for an hour and a half, and then I realized it was Saturday. Okay. And I grabbed my books and I looked around like, oh shit, I hope nobody didn't see me. And I went back to my house, threw the books on the table, and went back in my room, went to bed. But I was getting so high, I didn't even know what day of the week it was when I went to high school. So my grades were really bad.
Right.
And then I met a couple of really good teachers, people that believed in me and people that knew how to communicate.
Right.
And I'm an artist, and I had some really good art teachers, and because of their encouraging me and everything, and I buckled down and I got left back.
Right.
And like on top of getting high, now you feel completely stupid because you got left back.
Yeah.
Everybody else is a junior and you're still a sophomore.
Right.
And then what happened was that was like a wake up call for me. And I didn't stop partying completely, but I slowed down and I really started applying myself in high school. And I went from straight F to straight Bs.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't an A student, but I had straight Bs. I was really good in English, so I was in like the people that were in the English class that I went to were like, they were the National Honor Roll Society kind of. They're like the smartest kids in the school and everything. And there was things that I found that I enjoyed, but still, nothing got in the way of my partying. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then what happened was by the time I got to junior in high school, it was the last quarter. It was the third quarter. I'm going into the last quarter marking period of junior and high school, straight Bs. I begged my father to sign me out of high school. I want out of here because school bored me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always, I have
doing something way better.
I have an addictive personality. More is better. Right. So I was the kind of guy, I didn't want to hang around with the kids in my school and be eye to eye. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to get stoned and hang out in the teacher's lounge and call the teachers by their first names and everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, school things like that started to bore me. I was like, I got to get out of here, man. So I begged my father and he signed me out of school. Okay. And he goes, listen, I'm going to sign you out of school. You want to ruin your life? You go ahead and do this. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to go hang out in a candy store once I sign you out of high school. If I sign you out of high school, you're coming straight to work with me. My father was a union job in New York. Right. So I was like, I don't care. I'll do it. Okay. So I had my father sign me out of school, and then I went with him to work, and I was like, oh, man, this is going to suck, man. This is going to suck, working with my pops and everything. Now I step into the work atmosphere that he worked in, and I was like, oh, shit. This made high school look like nothing. Yeah. Now I was dealing with everything. Now I had like smoke, coke, prostitutes, fucking gambling, loan sharks. You know, it was like a scene out of Goodfellas. You know,
Right.
so you know, I thought my life was going to be so boring, and once I got introduced to that, now the addiction really started switching gears, man. And I progressed really hard.
And explain that progression. Explain, you know, you're 17, 18 years old,
Oh,
and then you go from high school, smoking weed, drinking, sign yourself out of high school.
signed myself out of high school. I left high school. Within the first year I left high school, I made more money than the superintendent of my high school. Because it's a union job. So I was making bank, bro.
Right.
I was driving around a Cadillac. I had a Mr. T starter kit hanging around my neck. I had a pinky ring on my finger.
Right.
I had the air conditioner cranking with both windows down.
Oh, you're smooth.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Right.
So I was digging the scene with a gangster lean, I thought, you know.
Right. Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And all that craziness, you know what I mean? You know, like you're talking about also with addiction comes, you know, mental illness ties into that too, man. I became very delusional in who I was.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was making coin like that and I wasn't paying no consequences and we were partying hardy, I just thought like, you know, I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Yeah.
Nobody can touch me.
Invincible.
Until I got civil jewelry put onto my wrists.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a wake up call. You know.
What happened? What did you get yourself into for the bracelets the first time?
The bracelets the first time. Oh man. I was on a work truck.
Okay.
Okay. I was on a work truck and I was copping on the work truck. Okay.
Mm.
And I got what I got and I dropped the dude off. And then after I dropped the dude off, I started pulling up the block. All of a sudden I was completely surrounded by the sheriff's department because I drove into a sting operation. Okay. Well, the next thing you know, I tried to run over 6 county cops. Okay. They wanted to charge me with attempted murder. And my parents were, you know, we weren't poor people. You know, my father made good money and we hired a real powerful lawyer. And all the guy did was walk into the courtroom and drop his credentials and basically everything was probation. You know what I mean? But the thing that always bothered me about that was I ruined my father's reputation. My father had an impeccable reputation as being my father was a straight shooter. Yeah. My father did not drink. My father did not part. My father was the kind of guy, he had the pocket protector with all the pens in it. You know what I mean? He was a very upstanding union man, did his job, very hard, diligent worker. Right. And I remember how messed up it was that I put that pin in my father's, you know, reputation. But that didn't stop me. You know what I mean? I still went on for years and years after that, and it got worse and worse. It's not a pretty story. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so everything that you said you were never going to do, you wound up doing it. You know, and when I got to the end, okay, before I threw my hand up in the air and said no more. Right. When I got to the end, it's like this. I used against my will. When it was the very last thing that I wanted to do, when I had tears running down my cheeks, and whatever I had, my whole world was inside of my hand, and I couldn't stop. You know,
sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you still like, because I've been there. You're so sick and tired of doing what you're doing, but you can't stop.
Absolutely.
So now you're getting high and destroying yourself out of necessity.
Right. And then here's what happens. For me, it was the difference between beaten and broken.
Yeah. I
could take a lot of beating. I took beatings for years and years and years and years. But when I got to the end, when I finally hung my guns up and I said, no more, I can't do this no more. Right. That was broken. In my brokenness, you know, I surrendered.
Yeah. And what was that like for you? what was the surrender process like for you? Because I went kicking and screaming for like the first 3 months or so. I was kicking and screaming the whole way, and then that miracle happened, to where like this could be a different way to live for me.
I remember I saw this girl. I'll never forget this chick named Renee.
Okay.
She comes bouncing in. She sees me. She hadn't seen me like in about like 2 years.
Okay.
And she goes, "Oh my God, you're still around." And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I can't believe you." She goes, "I remember when you came around, you used to throw chairs around." I was so. Listen, man. I was told the love of my life doesn't work for me no more.
Right.
And I was angry. And I was angry. There's also other feelings of being angry because I was angry because, like what we do in our head, we think it's a sign of weakness if we surrender to something. Right? We feel that we were defeated when we do something like that. How many times have you felt embarrassed for yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just felt embarrassed for myself. A lot of times I felt embarrassed for myself. But what I learned now is it's okay to feel my feelings now.
Right. It's tough.
It
It's
is
tough.
It
I still ducking.
Oh,
Don't want to face
I'm not
certain
saying it
feelings.
feels good, man. It doesn't feel like Mr. Bubble in a hot bubble bath.
Right.
It hurts,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable. But I find that that's where a lot of growth comes from.
Right.
The growth comes from, you know what I mean? Like, listen, this isn't something that's going to be handed to you. You have to be diligent.
You have to work.
You have to work at it.
Right.
Like we were talking about before. Like I always say, I do not possess the flaming wand of willingness.
Yeah.
I cannot pull out a wand and put it over TJ's head and he's going to get this. You got a wand.
Absolutely.
Self-diagnosed, self-admitted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish, I wish I could give people what I got. And just here, take this. This has worked so well for me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way. People, you have to be willing. You have to, the rubber has to meet the road, and you have to
you got to put the work in.
You got to put the work in.
A very dear friend of mine says to me all the time, he goes, "By the sweat of our spiritual brow."
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to crack a spiritual sweat.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual sweat, man.
Yeah.
You gotta put the time in to somebody said this a long time ago. This guy said, he goes, "You were born into this world with a hole in your spirit that could only be closed."
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The only thing that could fill that hole in your spirit that you were born into this world with is a personal relationship with you.
Right.
And he said, and furthermore, I'm not the guy who's going to tell you who that is. That's between you and your higher power.
Right. Yeah.
That's got nothing to do with me. That's your journey. Yeah. But I'm telling you, you were born into this world. This is what makes us different. This is what makes the addict different than the normal person out there on the street. For an addict, I was, look, long before I admitted and I accepted I had the disease of addiction, I always had this dis-ease. I never, even as a child, I never felt, are you kidding me?
Never felt
I wanted to walk in my parents' bedroom when I was a little kid at nighttime and shake them and wake them up and tell them, "Come on, break it to me, really. I'm adopted, right?" What kind of a person thinks like that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I never felt right. I felt like I was an alien inside of my own skin. I always felt like everybody in the next room was having a better time.
Right.
I was never okay with right here, right now, where my feet are planted.
I remember vividly me asking my mom at a very young age, like, "Oh, what's wrong?"
Yeah.
Why am I not?
Yeah. Like, you're not crazy.
Right.
You know how many times I had to be reaffirmed that?
Right.
You're not crazy. You're not crazy. And in fact, when I was a little kid, I was a very intelligent kid. They did like a test on me when I was a little kid, and I had like a IQ of like close to 140. Wow. Yeah.
Right.
But as far as being applicable or social skills,
right?
That does not prevent you from having low self-esteem. You know what I mean? It doesn't prevent you from feeling lonely or anxious.
So what Now we talk about mental illness too.
Oh,
Now, can we talk about now? Do you think addiction and mental illness go hand in hand?
to an extent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I believe that there are people that do suffer from legitimate mental illness besides the addictive personality that they do have.
Right.
You know, look, I work in a newspaper industry.
Right.
For years and years and years, I delivered newspapers in the city. Okay.
Mhm.
And I remember one of my stops where I used to deliver was Bellevue Hospital. And when I was there at Bellevue Hospital, this is at like 4:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
And I would get to Bellevue Hospital and you'd see them turning these people out onto the street. And I used to think to myself, what a crime this is. Like all they would do is they would give them like 3 days worth of pills.
Yeah. Here, take these.
And there you go.
Take these. Run
There you
along.
go.
Run along. Good luck.
That's it. You're done.
You know.
You're out. We can't hold you here no more. You got to go.
Right.
Now they turn the speed. Now where are they going to go?
Right back to the street. Right back
So
to the
there,
street.
you know, there was definitely no solution there. I used to see that time and time again firsthand. You know?
Now, we had spoke earlier. I don't know if you'll feel comfortable talking about PTSD.
Yeah.
And what that's like for you, and how do you get through your daily while fighting that?
Well, what happened was two of my friends got killed in front of me in 2011.
Right.
I
remember.
Right. I used to ride motorcycles and I still ride motorcycles, but I was involved in a motorcycle club and we were on a run and two of the guys that were killed in front of me, 4 went to the hospital, 2 died instantly, and I was on the back of the pack and I survived. Okay. And I went through years and years of survivor's guilt, you know. And then what happened was about 2 years ago, a friend of mine, one of my closest friends, lives out in Bucks County out here, right? He lives out at Quakertown. He was moving out of his house and he was putting stuff in the storage. So I told him, I said, sit tight. I'm off tomorrow. I'll come and help. Oh man, could you help me? I really appreciate it. I said, yeah, man, we'll knock it out. We'll put everything in your storage, right? So I said, I'm going to get up nice and early in the morning. So I'm going to blast out from Jersey out to your house, right? So now I start heading out and I'm going up Route 80 and traffic is coming to a stop going west, not east. We're heading towards the Delaware Water Gap in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. There's nothing. I'm like, why is this traffic stopping? So then what happened was I rolled up, I kept getting closer and closer and closer. Closer I got, then I saw the plume of smoke and I was like, oh man, this isn't good. I really need to see this. Okay. And we kept getting closer and closer and I couldn't pop out on the shoulder. The traffic was just too much. I couldn't get out. I was stuck in traffic on my motorcycle. And there was a car that went underneath the tractor trailer and the body was hanging out of the car with the seatbelt still on and they were burning in flames. And when I saw that, I lost my shit. I really lost my shit. And it was to the point where I was like, listen, man, this is not because of this. This is because of something that I didn't deal with in the first place. I didn't deal with this back in 2011. I should have, and I didn't. You know, so what I did was I sought help. I went to a therapist, you know, a very good, I forged a relationship with this woman, you know what I mean? And she helped me a lot with things like that, you know. But there's times that I suffer from anxiety. I feel edgy. We were in traffic last year. Same thing. We started going slow in traffic, bumper to bumper. And I was with my buddy that lives on Quakertown. And all of a sudden I was just like, can't be here. Boom. And I just popped out of the lane and started riding his shoulder. And there was a state trooper. And my boy looks at me and goes, dude, didn't you see? I said, I don't give a fuck.
Right. Right.
As soon as I went on his shoulder, I started burning the shoulder. I knew there was a trooper right there. All of a sudden he whipped the lights on and started coming up at me. And I told the cop straight out, I said, listen, dude, told the state trooper, no disrespect. I have PTSD. I said, I'm watching these cars edge in, and this guy's getting closer to me and closer to me, and this guy's getting closer, and we're going bumper to bumper, and we're being squeezed. I got to get the fuck out of here. And I just popped out, and I saw you there. It's not like I didn't, like I was pulling some wise guy move. I just had an anxiety attack, and I get the fuck. He goes, no problem. At least he was kind enough and he understood enough. He asked me to see my license and all my credentials. I showed him everything, threw everything back in my tour pack, and I was on my way. But I had a complete anxiety attack because it just brought back these memories. Yeah.
So you have 25 years in recovery, which is amazing. You know, like, because I would never think I was able to get a year, you know, at fighting active addiction and like just like Anthony. Shout out to Anthony Duran. I seen him comment spiritual warfare. That spiritual warfare that kept me in, go back out, and go back out, and go back out. You know, what is the last?
Believe me, I wasn't a first time winner either.
Right.
I came in, relapsed, went out, came back, relapsed, went out, put 90 days together, put 30 days together, went out, put 90 days together, went out, put 120 days together, went out again. I was just bouncing in and out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And thank God for some of those veterans, you know what I mean? Yeah. Let me tell you something. They welcomed me back every single time that I came back. I'll make no mistake about this. They didn't coddle me either.
Yeah.
They would look at me and they say,
different now.
Well, what makes you think that this is a revolving door here, man? Don't you understand? You're not going to make it back.
Yeah.
You're either going to wind up doing that or you're going to wind up doing the lambada on the upper tier in prison.
Okay.
You know? So the difference was what got me to stay was service.
Service.
Yes.
Being, you know, and saying
being accountable.
Yeah. I needed that discipline, that regiment, that schedule, whatever it was that I was signing up for, to where I needed to show up and be there and be held accountable.
Yeah.
You know, like even now in my everyday life, I need to be held accountable, you know, and that's the only way I make it through this thing is like to show up and suit up and be there, you know? So for the last 25 years, how has your life changed?
Oh, yeah. I've been through a lot of stuff since I've gotten clean. But it's not about what I own. You know what I mean? I've done everything. I went to in debt up to my eyeballs, out of debt and debt up to my eyeballs again. Divorce, car wrecks, motorcycle accidents. Life on life's terms, no more, no less. But the difference is that I came in with survival skills. I learned living skills, and now I have coping skills. You know,
right.
And now it's like things happen, and I process them. They don't rock my world anymore. You know what I mean? Like when I first came around, I was like an emotional weather vane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any gust of wind that came along, and I mean, pushed in all kinds of directions and stuff. You know? And now it is what it is. You know,
we learn how to adapt and overcome.
Look, service does not stop just inside of a room with a bunch of chairs in a circle.
Right.
Okay. My service now is my mother's 81. My father's going to be 88 next month. My mom has stage 4 cancer. Okay. My father has advanced Alzheimer's. So these are the things that I'm dealing with right now. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with cleaning up after my mother wearing diapers, her on the Keytruda, and the Keytruda is like working and it's shrinking whatever it is in her chest. But the downside of that is that everything that she eats turns into a case of trots.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's really, and my sister and I are splitting that. Thank God that I have a really good, and that's because of recovery. Let me tell you something. When I first came into rooms, I had no relationship. My sister was like this. This is straight out. Listen, motherfucker, they're my parents as much as they're your parents. And I'm telling you straight up, if something happens to mommy and daddy because of your fucking drug use, I will hunt you down and I will kill you. Stay the fuck away from me. Stay the fuck away from my house and stay the fuck away from my family. Okay? And all that shit had to be earned. Things I must earn.
Yeah.
Because that's how we spell time, right?
Yeah. Things I must earn.
That's
time.
right. Time.
Time.
So,
things I must earn.
so you know what I mean?
Gem.
So what I had to do was I had to take a posture of humility and just work on me and slowly. But let me tell you something. When I first got into recovery, my father didn't even want to know me.
Right.
My father wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire with all the shit that I put him through. Okay. And he wouldn't even like talk to me. And then months would go by and everything. And then one day he's sitting there, he goes, "You going to a meeting tonight?" I said, "Yeah, Pop." He goes, "That's good, good." He's sitting at the kitchen table. Man. Good, that's good. And then one day he's running down the steps. He's coming downstairs in the house. He's all showered up. His hair's still wet. And I see him reaching for his pockets like this. Now, my father's old school. He doesn't believe in Mac cards. He doesn't believe in cash machines, none of that stuff. Right. You write a check or you go to the bank and do your bank. He's old school. Right. So he was coming down a staircase and I see him grabbing his pockets and he's like, "Shit." And I'm like, "What's the matter, Pop?" And he's like, I'm gonna take your mother out. I gotta take your mother out. And I didn't go to the bank. I got no money. I was like, "Wait, you need money, Pop?" "Yeah." And he looked at me. He goes, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Here, Pop, what do you need? 60, 80? What do you need, Pop? Here, take money." Right? He's looking at my mother. He's going, "Look at this. He's giving me money." Right. And after that, my father was hook, line, and my father at that point, my father was cutting the front lawn with fellowship T-shirts on his shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
All right.
Right.
And then he thought he knew slogans. When I would come over, one of my support group would come over my house. My father would look at him and go, "The best." You know, like he thought that was some kind of like fellowship slogan. He would just when they'd be looking at my father, like, I just don't. It's my father. He's happy. He's just happy.
Right. That's amazing, man. Like, and this is what it's about. It's the fruits afterward. You know, like having my family back in my life is huge. You know,
let me tell you something. I was sitting in a meeting. This is how long ago it was. We still had beepers.
Right. Oh yeah.
All right.
He said beepers.
Now listen, I had a beeper, and I was sitting in a meeting, and my mother says to me, "Your sister's going to labor. She's going to hospital. If it's all number 2s across the screen in your beeper, it's a girl. If it's all number 1s, it's a boy." And I was sitting in a meeting when my nephew Pete was born. All right.
All ones.
And I saw those ones, and I was like, I looked at somebody next to me, and I said to him, "Look at this, man. My sister just had a boy."
See that?
Can you believe this? Now, let's fast forward. 2007, I go up to the Harley Davidson dealership, and I walk in there to buy a brand new Street Glide.
Right.
Talking about gifts of recovery. Okay. I go up there to buy a brand new Harley Davidson. I got my nephew with me, the same kid that was born while I was sitting in a meeting. Right. So the guy says, "You're gonna pull the trigger on this?" The salesman. I said, "Yeah, man. That's the one that I want." He goes, "Okay, well, let's do this. Come on, we'll draw up the contract, go in the office and everything." I said, "Okay." So he says to me, what are you gonna put down on the bike? You got cash? You gonna put a cash deposit down on it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna put cash down on the bike." He goes, "Well, how much you gonna put down on?" I said, 10. He goes, 10. Well, you're gonna put $10 down? I said, "No, 10,000.
Right.
He looked at me. He goes, "You got 10,000 cash with you right now?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "Okay, close the door. Where is it?" I said to him, "Wait a minute. Hey, Petey." I yell out to my nephew. I said, "You got that?" He looks at me in the dealership. He's got his fatigues on, and he goes like this on his side pocket.
Right.
The guy looks at me. He goes, "He's got your money?" I said, "Of course. It's got my money. It ain't going nowhere." Right. So I pull it out. We count out the money inside the dealership. He counts out the 10 grand. I signed the contract on the bike and everything. We go back and we say this to my sister. My sister almost had a stroke. My sister goes, I don't even trust him with my car keys. You had him hold $10,000. I said, yep. Yep.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
You gotta believe in somebody.
Yeah.
You understand? Somebody believed in me.
Right. And somebody believed in me.
Right.
You know, we need that. We need that hope shot. You know, that's what it comes down to, that hope shot.
Absolutely.
I wanna keep you, me and you could shoot the shit all night. We really could. And I'm not gonna do that because they closing here soon. What would you say to somebody that's out there right now struggling that needs help?
That's struggling, that needs help.
Yeah.
Find a meeting. I found where I go. It was my sister.
Right.
And it was because of public information.
Public information.
My life depended on public information. That's how I found.
Right.
Through public information, my sister found it for me, told me to go.
Yeah.
And I went. Okay. So you need to find a meeting, and then after you need to find a meeting, you need to just listen. It says all it took was a simple surrender.
Simple surrender.
You understand that the disease of addiction, the thing that puts a baseball bat to this disease is simplicity.
That's it.
Simplicity knocks the shit out of this disease. This disease wants us to overthink and second guess and complicate, and everything's a fucking spaghetti mess and I can't figure it out and I don't have all the, I love you like that. I don't want you to shirk you up.
Chaos.
Okay. Exactly.
Chaos.
And we know how to thrive in that shit. That
Absolutely.
was normal. I know how to function in dysfunction kind of stuff, you know.
Right.
But now, the simplicity, man. We knock this away, knock that away. It's this.
Yeah. I love it. I love simplicity.
Yeah.
Absolutely, my brother. I love you to the max.
I love you too, man.
And now I always ask this question before we go. Is there anything you want to ask me since I've been shooting the shit with you all night and you ain't really, you know?
Is there anything I want to ask you?
Yeah.
What are you grateful for today?
Serenity. I'm grateful to have peace in my life, a peace of mind, and an attitude of gratitude. You know, like most days we wake up and shit, by the time you're done making your first cup of coffee, things can go left. And that can potentially mess up the rest of your day. You know, and if you allow it, right? Like we were talking before, like I'm the only person responsible for me having a bad day. So I got these tools that I use, and you know, I gotta
walk around the rest of the day claiming a victim.
Yeah.
I can. Woe is me.
I can either be a victim or I can claim victory, one way or the other.
Absolutely.
You know,
Praise God.
Yeah, I'm thankful for my God for saving my life every day. Yeah. Like the guy asked me, he's like, "How you doing today?" I was like, "I woke up. Everything else is a bonus, right? Absolutely. Everything else is a bonus, my brother. I love you. We're gonna do part two. I'm gonna come down to y'all when it's time to do.
Come down to my digs. We'll do a spot from my place, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love it. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man. That's Spittin' with Spitter, man. It's TJ Spitter. You can catch us Wednesday night. I got a bonus episode coming for you Sunday night with another one of my guys. If you haven't yet, click 2M1L Media. Go like, subscribe, and share for all our shows. For all your vaping needs, go to Lehigh Valley Vape at 822 Nazareth Pike. Tell them TJ sent you. For all your CBD needs, go to 312 Town Center Boulevard, Mom and Pop CBD shop. And with that, we're signing out. Have a good night, y'all. Stay blessed.